Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly developer update. So for this week I've not got any new pixel art or anything to show you because as I stated in last week's dev diary, I've I took this week to think of ideas on what I want my final year project game to be, as it has to be a turn-based strategy game. So over this past week I've done a lot of thinking. I've still not narrowed down on a specific idea yet. I just have quite a lot of just different concepts and themes going on. So I just thought I'd talk you through some of them. So, first of all, what I did was I went and looked at a lot of turn-based strategy games that I've played and thought of specific, features and aspects of them that I like and just sort of listed them. So for example, I like how in Fire Emblem and the Persona series, you when you, for example, use a unit or character more, you get like a little in Fire Emblem it's called like a support conversation where you'll have those two characters interact and then they'll get stronger from that, whether they just get like an extra bonus stats or say in Persona once you raise your support rank with someone, they learn new moves. And I think that's a pretty cool feature that I'd like to implement in some way. Having some sort of support slash relationship system. And I've also just been looking at one of the main things I've looked at is different turn-based strategy combat. Because there's all sorts of different things you can do with this. You can take it in the Fire Emblem, Advanced Wars, Final Fantasy Tactics way, where it's like overhead, grid based, or you could take it more in the sense of, say, like Pokemon, where it's 1v1, and they could have, elemental strengths and weaknesses. There's there's just so many differences. Like there's the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, how it could be again like top down, but you go exploring through a randomly generated floor. There's just been I've been going through quite a lot of just different ideas, and to be honest, I've not 100% narrowed down on one yet. Just because again, it's just so broad. One idea I thought was having a monster training game, but my issue with that is how to differentiate that from Pokemon. Which to do that, I thought of making it be like a more mature and having it implement permadeath, and to make that fit, maybe have it take place in like a war, similar to maybe like Fire Emblem. So something that could maybe be a cross of them two. So for example, say it was you have to explore this world and there is a story with a game where you have to where there's a war going on and you have your elemental monster Pokemon creatures. I feel like because I've done these Nuzlocke challenges in Pokemon where your Pokemon have permadeath and that's quite fun. So maybe we had something that incorporated some sort of permadeath mechanic, similar to like a Nuzlocke challenge. That could be cool. Was an idea I had. So then the idea of it being in a war made sense because them dying in a war would be a lot more fitting thematically, and it if it was in a war, I could feel like you could have a lot more mature themes in there, such as moral grey areas on what's right and what's wrong, and I feel like there's a lot you could do in that. So I had a good think about that. That was an idea I was quite stuck on for like a good few days, and now I'm still not 100% sure on it because my main thing with it is what I don't know exactly what I'd do for the combat. Like, would it just be? I would definitely wouldn't want the combat to just be like Pokemon because already having elemental creatures makes it similar to Pokemon. So the combat would have to be even though it'd have different themes like being more mature and different mechanics. I'd want to make sure maybe the combat could be could be somewhat like Fire Emblem, where it's like grid based, or it could be something like Octopath Final Fantasy, where it's like you have a party of say four against like a big boss enemy, for example. But again, this is this. uh, I'm aware that this episode is kind of just well, this dev diary is kind of just me rambling through my various ideas as I've really been racking my brain about it. And another thing I had an idea of is if there is permadeath, maybe make it like a roguelike, so once you lose all of them, like the run ends and then you start a new run and get maybe different elemental creatures on that run. That was an idea that could be interesting, to be fair, and I feel like that would definitely help differentiate it. Because the reason I thought making like a the main reason I thought making a monster training slash like monster fighting game would be good, well for me anyway, is because I think definitely one of my strengths and one of the things I enjoy most is character design and just drawing various characters, as you can probably tell during the amount of like pixel art and that I like doing. So something that had a lot of like different creatures would be very artistic and character art like design based. So that's something I'd like. So, you know, maybe it could be a roguelike game where you get different elemental creatures to start with, and as you progress through the run, you find different creatures each time, and there's different enemies each time, and then different bosses, for example. That's one idea. But then it's, what would the combat be? Because I've also been looking at ideas like the Mario and Luigi games and Paper Mario games. How they have like, they're turn-based, but they have like some, I don't know what you call, maybe like action commands. So, for example, in the Paper Mario game, you'd have to press A at the right time when you jump on an enemy to do a like another jump in order to get more bonus damage. So those like mechanics like that I've also just been thinking about, as well as it's just thinking about a lot of different things, and I'm thinking of features I'd like, but I need to think of like a cohesive game idea that works, and then I add the features is the issue I'm coming up with. Because I know this is going to be a big project that I'm going to be working on in uni for the whole uni year. So I just really want to make sure I choose the idea that's I'm going to be the most motivated to work on, and that's going to create the best like final product. So I think that's everything I've got to talk about so far. Again, I'm still not 100% on a single idea. Like, say I don't go the monster taming fighting route, maybe just like a medieval fantasy genre, like RPG with some sort of story. And I have like story elements and like concepts I think I would like to incorporate if I make a more story focused game, rather than say a roguelike. For example, one idea I like in stories is adding like moral grey areas. So for example, say there's a criminal who is maybe attacked someone, maybe killed someone, and he's asking you for help because he's injured and he's going to die. Is it right for the, say, player character to just leave them for dead, effectively killing them? Or, like, is it right for the player to decide, like, if they get to live or die? Sort of like moral grey areas like that, I think are interesting. Or say it was based in a war, it could also... Something I like about the idea of it being in a war is... One idea I had is the player isn't on either side of the war. It's just sort of like a civilian or like someone who's just stuck in the middle of the war, and sort of seeing how both sides aren't completely evil. So, for example, say there were two armies. Maybe, some soldiers are just fighting to defend their homeland, or, you could see some soldiers on one side are committing like horrible, maybe like war crimes, and are like doing horrible things, but then other soldiers on that same side are being more noble and just trying to show like different sides of like war. Again, that's just one idea I've just been thinking about, but it's just a lot of brain racking and just thinking because I've got lots of ideas where I'm like, oh, this would be cool and that would be cool, but I need a solid game idea that I can just go, this is the idea, this is the combat, this is the story or like the structure of the game, whether it be a top-down world you explore like a Pokemon, whether it be going through randomly generated terrain like mystery dungeon or maybe a roguelike or some other method I've not even mentioned. But anyway, sorry for the rambles, but that's probably all I've got for this week. So for next week, I'll probably try and do a bit of pixel art just so I have something to show you. But I'll still be doing a lot of just trying to think on what I want my third year game idea to be. And I'm gonna try and get a lot more stuff like to paper, like solid ideas that I want. So thanks for listening to my ramble, and I'll see you all next week. Alright, peace.